Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Bommer F86229-605. That part number simply translates to hinge screw. This is a machine thread hinge screw, 1224. This is going to be typically used on 4.5 inch by 4.5 inch, 5 by 4.5, 5 by 5 hinges. When you're installing them onto a metal door, a metal frame. There are a couple of features to a hinge screw that make it different than just a flathead 1224 screw, which you can easily get, at like an industrial hardware store. And what those two features are is the fact that these are what we would call undercut head. If you notice, the underside of the flat head comes down on an angle like a flathead screw, but then it's cut back. Okay, that's the undercut part, this flat part that you see here. Now the reason for that is, that the thickness of the hinge is insufficient for a full flathead screw to be able to sit flush into. So they'll create an undercut feature to the underside of a flathead screw, allowing you to get this installed flush and into the countersink that's been prepared in a hinge. So that's feature one. Meaning that's probably why you need to buy hinge screws, because they're special. That's the first reason that they're special. The second reason that they're special is that you'll notice on the tip of the threads there are grooves cut into them. And really, there we go. Okay, what those little grooves are at the tip of the screw, hinge screws are called thread forming, and those grooves are what are the physical definition of thread forming. Here's what they do. Hollow metal doors and frames, obviously, well, both actually. I've been to hollow metal door plants, and they'll take jambs and they will literally hang them on hooks and run them through the spray booth. And what they do is, as the frame pieces go through the spray booth, the pieces are just sprayed. So paint gets into the reinforcing plates for the hinges, for the strikes, and it literally will coat the inside of the threads. Every manufacturer will have in their installation instructions as much of that is actually published, which isn't very much, but you'll generally find it with knockdown drywall frames. The paragraph will usually be there, and also Steel Door Institute, or SDI. All of their published tech documents as it pertains to hollow metal doors will say holes must be tapped first prior to applying hardware. Now that's really never done, and in all of the doors that I've installed, unless there's an overwhelming amount of paint, I generally don't take the time to do that, even though I should, because I run the risk of stripping the screw or damaging the frame. That thread forming or thread cutting feature to the screw allows you to get the screw started and to clear that paint out. That's why that's the case. It's much more pronounced on frames in my experience than it is on doors, far more pronounced, and it's probably, I don't know why. It must have something to do with the application of paint. But that's the other significant feature of why a hinge screw is different than just a 1224 flathead screw. Probably a footnote to why they're special is that you generally don't get different finishes. Now, the F86229 from Bommer is their part number for the 1224 hinge screw for machine applications, machine thread applications, that are for their brass or bronze-based material. So this is brass. This would probably be less common than the steel-based, which we have listed in the site as well under the same category structure. But if you have, like Bommer's BB 5001, LB 8001, solid brass ball bearing hinge, or any hinge, frankly, that is a brass or bronze-based material, this would be the proper hinge screw to use. Why you would want brass? Well, the finish on the brass, polished brass 605 finish on solid brass would look different than a 632 polished brass finish on steel. And that matters. You probably also wouldn't want two disparate metals making contact, and certainly if it's an application where your job requires or calls for brass hinges, you'll certainly want brass based material screws as well. Listed in the site and all the common finishes that would correlate to the availability of hinges: your brass, your bronze, your chromes, your polished, your satin, your antique finishes, oil rub bronze. It's all available. If you have any questions, and these are sold as each, by the way. If you have any questions on the Bommer F86229-605 1224 flat undercut head thread forming machine screw for hinges, or any other Bommer product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.